Most people are at least somewhat familiar with retirement savings plans, such as traditional or Roth IRAs and 401ks. What most people aren't aware of is that if you qualify to have a health savings account, or HSA, it too can be a useful tool for supplemental retirement savings. I'm the Tax Geek, and here's HSAs and retirement, oversimplified. Health savings accounts allow you to make pre-tax or tax-deductible contributions to an account that grows tax-free. Distributions are also tax-free if they are used for qualifying medical expenses. I've covered HSAs in more detail in a previous video, but here is a brief review. Health savings accounts are used in conjunction with certain high-deductible health plans to allow you to put tax-deferred money aside to help pay the plan's deductibles and coinsurance payments. Contributions can be made through your employer, much like a 401k plan, and some employers match these contributions. Or if you have an individual HCHP, you can open an HSA with a bank or investment firm. Those contributions are taken as an adjustment to income on line 13 of Schedule 1, page 2, and ultimately show up on line 10 of Form 1040. However they are made, these contributions grow tax-free, and distributions are tax-free when used for qualifying medical expenses. These characteristics treat HSA contributions like traditional IRAs or 401ks to reduce taxable income, but they also make HSAs like Roth IRAs or 401ks with their qualifying tax-free distributions. Most people who have these accounts usually spend from them as needed using a debit card the HSA bank provides for the purpose. Or you can pay the expenses out of pocket and submit the expenses for later reimbursement. What most people don't realize is that the money in your HSA is yours to keep, even if you are no longer eligible to make contributions. This can happen when you leave an employer that offers an HDHP with an HSA, no longer have a private HDHP, or become eligible for Medicare. These funds remain in your account and continue accumulating earnings. If you have a large enough balance in your HSA, through the power of compounding, this balance can grow to a considerably large amount by the time retirement rolls around. Those who can afford it can't contribute more than they reasonably expect to pay for medical expenses while they're still young and healthy, and have a nice nest egg to cover the larger medical expenses that come with old age with tax-free withdrawals. You can, in most cases, defer withdrawals as well. If you incur qualifying expenses before age 65 and pay them out of pocket, you can submit the expenses after age 65 for a tax-free payout you can use for any purpose. Time for some examples. Meet Jack. He worked for Wonder Markets from age 35 through age 40, which offered an HJHP with a health savings plan. Jack contributed the maximum amount he could to his HSA, which for 2025 is $4,300. Jack is pretty healthy, and even with the HDHP, his average annual medical expenses are $400, which he pays using his HSA. Assuming his account grows at 5% per year, by the time Jack leaves Wonder Markets, his HSA will have accumulated to about $22,400. If he keeps the money in the account and continues to spend the $400 per year on medical expenses, the account will grow to over $57,000 by the time Jack turns 65. This can be a great supplemental retirement account that can be withdrawn tax-free when used for qualifying medical expenses. As such, it can preserve his regular retirement savings for non-medical purposes. He can also make withdrawals for any purpose at all after age 65, as long as he pays income tax on the distribution, just as with a traditional 401k or IRA distribution. Now let's suppose Jack doesn't use his HSA for qualifying expenses, and instead pays the expenses out of pocket and accumulates the receipts for later reimbursement. In that case, his HSA will grow to just over $29,000 by the time he leaves Wonder Markets, and over $99,000 by the time he turns 65. At this point, he submits the receipts for the approximately $12,000 in medical expenses for tax-free reimbursement. He now has $87,000, which can either be withdrawn tax-free for qualifying medical expenses after age 65, or for any purpose at all, as long as he pays the income tax on the distributions. This is $30,000 more than in the first scenario. Of course, not everyone can do what Jack did. People often don't have the means to either divert $4,000 or more from their income streams, or pay their medical expenses out of pocket and get reimbursed for them years later. Accumulating expenses for reimbursement also requires vigorous record keeping. If the receipts for the expenses are lost or destroyed, you won't be able to submit them later. So let's scale this back a bit. Let's just say that Jack only puts $2,000 per year into his HSA while he is working for Wonder Markets. He also pays his average $400 annual medical expenses out of his HSA as he incurs them. The account still grows at 5% per year. Let's see what happens now. In this case, Jack would have about $10,900 in his HSA upon leaving Wonder Markets, and by the time he reaches age 65, the balance would have grown to about $17,700. Certainly not as much as before, but it's still a nice supplement to his regular retirement savings. And that's how having an HSA can create more security in retirement. Of course, this is a very oversimplified view, and the results will vary depending on how much is contributed, how much the account earns, and the medical expenses that are incurred. Additional information and resources are linked in the video description. If you found this video informative, tapping the like button would help this video reach a wider audience. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for additional oversimplifications of our overcomplicated tax system. And your questions, comments, and suggestions are always welcome in the comment space below. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with more of Your Taxes Oversimplified.